It's not uncommon for, as fire season starts to kick off, we see fires happen a little more frequently, stretching our crews thin as people get used to the idea that their outdoor activities can have a higher risk towards fire threat.
We went to one of the locations for one of the fires. It was caused by naturally. So the resident told me the compost underneath of a plant caught on fire. Was that the case?
Which fire are you referring to?
Vera in Springfield?
Vera Drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can happen, especially as we add soil amendments or different organic compounds. As they decay at different rates, can create heat and what we call spontaneous combustion to start those fires. It's a little more common when like fresh bark comes in contact with compost or other decaying materials.
So all 6 of those fires yesterday, were they human caused? Besides that one?
Besides that one, yeah. One of them was malfunctioning equipment, so a little less than human cause. One was work activities, so utilization of a grinder that threw sparks to start a grass fire. There in Springfield, yep, by St. Vincent's. The fire in West Eugene appears to be related to sparklers, and so there's various causes this time of year. That one was actually a house fire, which usually we see fireworks cause fires on the exterior, but it's hard to predict any given day which human activities are going to lead to a fire, but there are things that we can do to prevent them for sure.
I want to talk about those things.
Mm-hmm.
The things we can do to prevent them, and what is prohibited right now?
So pretty much everything is prohibited right now. We're in fire season. That meaning the areas within our jurisdiction who could do backyard burning during fires or during burn season, they can't do that anymore. In the city of Eugene, you can't use fireworks. In Springfield, now that we're in fire season, you can't do the backyard burning. You can't burn weeds with a weed torch, which we see those happen frequently. And if you're doing any other, what we consider, industrial type use, using grinders, torches, welding equipment, those types of things, you have to take extra precautions while we're in fire season to make sure you have fire suppression tools available. When we get later into fire season, we start to see more like red flag weather, extreme fire weather, or just extreme fire danger. We really start to then limit any of those activities that might create a spark in the outdoors. Limits to mowing and dry grass, all of those things. Anything that can create a spark can start a wildfire. And we are not really into the heat of fire season. It just began, and Lane County just sent its second task force to a second conflagration in a week in June. That doesn't happen. And we're not anticipating fire season to become dangerous for us until really late July into August and then into September.
Are there other things that people can do if a fire has already started? In the meantime, waiting for 911. If it's small, should they try to extinguish it or help?
Yeah, if you have the tools and equipment necessary and it's safe to put the fire out, if you have a hose, if you have a fire extinguisher, you should watch out for your personal safety. But if you can safely approach and extinguish that fire, you should. If you're physically able, because the reality is, as fire seasons get riskier for us and things get drier, a small fire can become a big fire quickly without intervention. And our crews are extremely busy. The fire in West Eugene, the mobile home fire yesterday, it took us longer than normal to get there because 3 of the closest fire crews were already committed to other calls. And the first crew to get there was a ladder truck from 2nd and Chambers. And ladder trucks have a very specific job on fires. One of those is not pumping water. There was a fire engine that arrived right behind them, but point being, we are an incredibly busy fire department. and being fire safe, preventing fires, and if you can intervene safely and able to do so, can really have an important impact on the outcome. But other things, again, to the fire, grass fire, brush fire, wildfire safety component of this. This problem grows, the season gets longer, the threat gets higher, and we continue to prove it's not something that we're going to be able to suppress our way out of. We need homes and properties to be prepared to have a fire and have it not get into their home.
You grazed over the stretching your staff thing.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about that West Eugene fire, but could we get more specific about just what these fires yesterday did in terms of staffing and being able to respond to other areas?
Yeah, what we saw, so in the period of about 2 hours, we had a house fire in West Eugene, a house fire call in Springfield, and then a commercial fire in Springfield. And for each of those calls, crews were already stretched thin, in other places running calls. In some cases, they made a judgment decision on prioritizing which call to go to and sending another unit to those calls. It becomes very dynamic for not only our crews, but our on-duty battalion chiefs to manage resources and where they're going and prioritize those higher risk, highest kind of life threat calls and deploying resources to those. We still got to the other calls, but sometimes for many of those it took longer than we're used to.
I wanted to go back to something you were talking about, Lane County's firefighters being sent to those fires, Alder Fire. Do you have any intergovernmental agreements with any cities or anything like that where you would send out firefighters?
We do. So we all are a part of the state's mutual aid system and its conflagration system. They update what they call the mobilization plan every year, which is a predetermined set of task forces and counties where pretty much everybody participates. When the governor orders an emergency conflagration or invokes the Emergency Conflagration Act, they then start to deploy resources county by county to get to that incident. And we participate in that. When we do participate in that, we call firefighters in off duty so our community doesn't see a loss of a fire crew because we're out helping our neighbors somewhere else in the state of Oregon, and the state pays for all of the costs associated with that.
And does Lane County ever help with fires that you all are taking on?
So the county proper, no. The county doesn't have a fire suppression role. They might assist in a large-scale emergency with their emergency management program. The sheriffs have a most important role for evacuation, communication with search and rescue. But for fire suppression, it's all of the 17, 18 fire departments within Lane County. We all have mutual aid agreements, and in some cases what we call automatic aid agreements, meaning for certain call types, you don't have to ask us to come, we just come. And in exchange, there's certain areas in our territory where they come, where we don't have to ask them to come support us, on our rural boundaries. So the system works really well to support each other. And we continue as we get stretched thin, as the problems get more complex, the state's added financial resources to deploy firefighters faster and make sure that the local jurisdictions get paid for that. And we've enhanced our aid agreements within the county to make sure that we're very nimble in providing aid regardless of where the fire's at.
One more question for you. Should this, little off topic, on topic, should the fire service fee not pass in November's special election, this stormwater fee increase, I think 16 or 18% increase, will it be of any benefit? Will you see losses to your budget?
Yeah, so I can't speak to the fire fee because it's an election measure as a city employee. But to your question about the budget process and the stormwater fee, will we see cuts related to that? No. there are no fire suppression cuts in the city of Eugene. With the recent passage of the budget in Springfield, we do anticipate temporary service reductions in one of the stations, which will occur probably sometime in early 2026 to meet that budget gap.